All right, so you think you've got this NFL wildcard weekend all figured out. Well, you might want to pump the brakes, because hiding just beneath the surface of these games are some wild historical trends. You could even call them hidden rules that pretty much flip the script on everything we think we know. So yeah, let's get into it. First things first, let's just get one thing straight. This is not your typical playoff weekend. Seriously, throw out all that conventional wisdom. The stuff about home teams with better records just rolling over everybody. The data, the real numbers, they tell a very, very different story. And here's where it starts to get really weird. Get this. If you add up the betting lines for all 6 games, the road teams, the visiting teams, are favored to win by a combined 6 points. Vegas is basically telling us that on average, the teams playing on the road are better. That almost never happens, and it's the perfect recipe for absolute chaos. So you might be asking, how in the world did we get here? Well, this isn't just a fluke. The entire season has led us to one of the most unpredictable, one of the strangest playoff brackets we've seen in a long, long time. All those preseason predictions, yeah, you can pretty much just toss them right out the window. I mean, just look at this. Of all the teams that were picked to win their division way back in the summer, only one actually pulled it off. We had 2 teams, the Chiefs and the Ravens, that were supposed to win 11-plus games. They're not even in the playoffs. And 2 of the top favorites to win the Super Bowl, they're already sitting at home. This isn't just a few upsets, it's a total reset of what we all expected. All this craziness leads us to our first hidden rule of the postseason. Maybe, just maybe, being the underdog is actually the better spot to be in. And man, there is no better example of this than the single most shocking home team of the entire weekend. You heard that right. The Carolina Panthers, a team that won their division playing in their own stadium, were the biggest home underdogs in the history of the NFL playoffs. I mean, that one stat alone perfectly captures just how bizarre this whole postseason really is. So what made these guys so dangerous? Well, for starters, they got into the playoffs with a losing record. And get this, they didn't win a single game all year when they were supposed to, when they were the favorites. But when they lost, they were tough as nails, covering the spread 8 straight times. And on top of that, history was totally on their side. Big home underdogs like them were a perfect 8-0 against the spread. So what happened in the game? Well, look at that score. The Rams won, sure, but only by a field goal. The Panthers didn't get the victory, but that hidden rule held up perfectly. They kept it way closer than anyone thought. It was an absolute nail-biter that went right down to the wire, just like history suggested it would. Okay, now for our next hidden rule. This one digs a little deeper. We're talking about the most important position on the field, quarterback, where, in the playoffs, experience isn't just important, it's almost everything. And the data here is, well, it's just brutal. Since 2002, when a quarterback makes his very first playoff start against a vet who's been there before, their record is a dismal 20 wins and 40 losses. They only win the game about a third of the time. And even against the spread, they only cover 34% of the time. It's a huge disadvantage. And this isn't some ancient history, you guys. This trend is a massive storyline this weekend. We've got 3 different games where it applies. Bryce Young versus Matthew Stafford, Caleb Williams and the Bears against Jordan Love, and Drake Nay's Patriots taking on Justin Herbert. History tells us all 3 of these young QBs, even playing at home, are in a really tough spot. But it's not just about the quarterbacks. There are even more historical quirks and trends that are in play this weekend. These are the kind of stats that the pros in Vegas look for, and they point towards some pretty specific outcomes. So, first up, there's a fun one called outdoor unders. All 6 games this weekend are being played outside. And since 2004, when that happens in the wildcard round, the total points scored have gone under what Vegas predicted 68% of the time. It makes sense, right? Cold weather, a little wind, and that playoff intensity, it just tends to slow offenses down. Okay, here's another little detail that has had a huge impact: the rest disadvantage. This happens when a favorite has less time to rest and prepare than their opponent. Now, it's only happened 4 times since 2002, but get this. Those favored teams are a perfect 0-4 against the spread. And this weekend, that rule applies to the Los Angeles Rams. But this right here, might be the most powerful trend of them all. When a quarterback who has already won a Super Bowl goes into a playoff game as an underdog, they cover the spread an absolutely astounding 72% of the time. Just let that number sink in for a second. 72%. I mean, that is just a massive historical edge. It's not a small trend, it's practically a rule at this point. They call them ring dogs, champions who are getting points. And this week, that applies in a couple of spots. Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. History says you bet against these guys at your own peril. So let's put it all together. We have home teams that are supposed to lose. We have rookie quarterbacks staring down a really nasty historical trend. And we have these incredibly powerful underdog stats that just seem to defy all logic. What does it all mean for the games still to come? Well, we already saw a historic nail-biter with the Panthers. And now we have a whole slate of games left where the quote-unquote better team is facing all these headwinds you just can't see on a regular stat sheet. So the big question is, will the favorites playing at home somehow find a way to buck these powerful trends? Or are we about to watch history repeat itself as the hidden rules of Wild Card Weekend claim a few more victims? I guess we'll find out. Enjoy the games.